Woman thought she was bloated, then looks in the toilet. In a panic, she called her mother-in-law. She asked her if anything was wrong with her toilet after she used it last night. She laughed and reassured her that nothing was wrong. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister was at play. Her anxiety grew as her tiredness increased and her stomach bloomed. She was screaming for help. When Caitlin Lane found James, she knew they had something special. And it wasn't long before he asked her to move in together. They lived in a lovely home with 2 beautiful golden retrievers. But for Caitlin, this wasn't enough. She wanted to be a mom. She grew up dreaming of having her own little family, but those dreams would soon crumble around her. Caitlin married her love in 2017 in the city of Buffalo, New York. Her idea of how she'd live out a relationship with her dream man life was going exactly as planned. First house, then dogs, then marriage, and then finally, baby. It was that simple. What could possibly go wrong? Well, she was about to find out. Caitlin stopped taking the pill and made sure to take prenatal vitamins. She ate healthily and made sure to get enough rest. But despite all her efforts, a year had passed and she still wasn't pregnant. Caitlin knew that she needed some tests done, so she made an appointment with her fertility doctor. To her relief, nothing seemed wrong. But then what was the problem? The good results didn't mean much as Caitlin was still struggling to conceive. With her devastating mystery, she turned to IVF, but after researching more about it, she found that the fees for the procedure were far more expensive than what her and her husband could afford. She decided to put their dreams on hold and went back on the pill. Completely oblivious to what was happening. It was a Sunday evening, and Caitlin had just come back home after celebrating the weekend by going for drinks with her girlfriends. She greeted her husband with a hug before making her way to the bathroom. Once she finished using the toilet, she got up and turned around to wash her hands. Then she sees something that startled her beyond belief. Caitlin's jaw dropped to the floor as she looked at the toilet seat. Flustered, she screamed for help and her husband came rushing in. He looked at Caitlin and then at the toilet seat and paused. "What the hell?" he said. She was just as confused. "Maybe it's because of the new cleaner I used," she stammered. Suddenly she felt very self-conscious. What was it? The toilet seat had turned bright blue after Caitlin used it. But, as it turned out, the mysterious blue patch on the porcelain seat wasn't caused by any new cleaning product. It indicated something far more serious, and Caitlin felt it. The next morning, Caitlin called a few doctors and asked for answers, but no one could help her. Instead, some even laughed at her strange question. But this was no laughing matter. "I then called my mother-in-law to check her bathroom, since I had been there the night before." Totally normal, Caitlin explained. But she couldn't shake the feeling that there was a dark undertone to the strange incident. Her anxiety grew as her colitis began to flare up again, and she always felt tired and bloated. What was going on? That night, while Caitlin and her husband were nestled in bed, she got out her phone and googled blue toilet seat. If it wasn't the new cleaning product, what on earth could it be? Finally, the page loaded and Caitlin's face turned pale. Her heart pounded in her chest as her eyes scoured over the article. Silently, she turns to her husband and shows him her phone. The next day, Caitlin finished work and headed straight to the pharmacy. She walked into the store and discreetly browsed the aisles. She knew a lot of people in the area and she didn't want them to know her business. Once she found what she was looking for, she raced to the counter and stuffed the box in her bag, desperately hoping it would provide her with answers. When Caitlin searched blue toilet seat, it resulted in hundreds of articles about how pregnancy hormones can turn porcelain toilet seats blue. Or that she may have chromhidrosis, a disorder of the sweat glands. But could she really be pregnant? That seemed absolutely impossible. Still, Caitlin needed to be sure. So she took the pregnancy test. A test that would leave everyone stunned. Eager to find out the results, Caitlin's husband rushed over to her as she arrived home. She made her way to the bathroom to do the test as he desperately waited. She followed the instructions on the box carefully, while feeling a bit silly for doing this. After all, she didn't really feel pregnant. How wrong she was. It was positive. She was pregnant. Caitlin looked up to her husband in disbelief as he embraced her. He was bursting with excitement at the thought of their new little one. Caitlin's shock then turned to relief. "It was about time," she says before crying with joy. Little did she know, there was a much bigger surprise waiting around the corner. Promptly, she booked an appointment and attended the next day. She was still in a confusing place of shock and excitement as they discussed her pregnancy with her doctor. The most pressing question on Caitlin's mind was how long she had been pregnant for. But once the doctor pulled out the ultrasound, she and her husband could not believe what they were looking at. Caitlin posted her story on Reddit and it went viral, attracting hundreds of comments. One user wrote, "So insane. You are proof those didn't know I was pregnant stories are true. So interesting that you didn't really seem to feel the baby before you knew. I always wonder about that." So, how far along was Caitlin into her pregnancy? The ultrasound showed a full-size baby. He had his head down, a fully formed heart and everything. Both Caitlin and her husband were at a loss for words. The doctors concluded that she was about 7 months along. Caitlin couldn't believe it. The two left that hospital that day, speechless and excited, and waited to see how this miracle baby would turn out. Caitlin wrote. The midwife asked if I felt movement and I told her I hadn't until the week I found out. It's like he was waiting for me to figure it out before making himself known. Now I can feel him constantly. Especially when he gives me a kick to the ribs. Caitlin had a shorter time than most before welcoming her little baby into the world. After almost 2 years of trying, James and Caitlin had finally done it. Just 3 months after the good news, Caitlin delivered a healthy baby boy. It was one of the best experiences of my life, she happily proclaimed. I had no morning sickness or cravings, that's why I didn't even know I was pregnant. The whole pregnancy just flew by. Caitlin's story shows that dreams can come true, and sometimes in a way that is most unexpected. Life is full of surprises. This is something Caitlin and her husband know well. Her bizarre story serves to remind us that we should all expect the unexpected and never give up on our dreams. After all, who knows? They may be right under your nose, waiting for you to figure it out.